so we have a few interviews scheduled for today. Let's talk about exactly what we're looking for and
I
kind
know
of
when I was kind of looking over the numbers, I saw that we needed a new third grade teacher. The numbers are really filling up between the virtual and the face-to-face students. So I thought that maybe we can hire a third grade co-teach teacher, someone that is kind of proficient in technology. We don't really have a lot of time to go over how to use the Google Classroom platform. So I'm really looking at someone that can utilize the Google platform and can run from there. With co-teach, I will need for her to go ahead and do some breakout sessions, make sure that, she's prepared for ARDs, things like that. So when I'm asking questions, I wanna go over some scenario-based questions to see how, she could best be utilized in that position.
Okay, that sounds great. So we're pretty much on the same page. Let's see. Definitely we need someone who's tech savvy, because we don't know, we might go virtual full time after the break. We have no idea. So definitely, do we want to do, or maybe in our second interview, if we call them back, we can do like a test run, see how tech savvy they are.
Yes.
Because in the past, we've had teachers come in and say they can do this, they can do that, but we want to actually see a lesson.
So maybe on the second interview, we can actually have her come in for a 45-minute lesson.
Yes, that would be perfect.
And see if she or he is a good candidate for the school.
Yes.
Because I would really like the team to meet them. So out of the 3 candidates that we have coming up, I would want to schedule each one of them a 45-minute lesson to where the team can watch them and see if they're really cohesive with the team.
Yes, I agree on that as well.
And then we will also have our SPED director come in as well when we do the next interview.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so I want to make sure we have some scenario-based questions to make sure how she deals, with different scenarios.
Since we are a differentiated learning campus, if you look at question number 4, I want to know how she's going to be able to use data to differentiate her lessons. Because that is the big campus and district push. I need to be able to see that when she does her breakout sessions, she'll be able to differentiate her lesson from there.
Especially dealing with our SPED kids, you need to be able to differentiate for sure.
I want to know how she keeps her kids motivated, engaged too. That will be question number 7. Because by you having some kids that are in the classroom and some that you have virtual, I don't want everyone sitting at the computer and just typing while she does her small groups. So I want to be able to see that they're doing some type of literacy centers to where we break out the buckets and things like that.
Right.
And have them all in a cohesive group working together.
And when she's, just something to think about also, when she's doing whole group lessons with her virtual and face-to-face, how is she monitoring those face-to-face kids? Because in a few of our walkthroughs, we've noticed, some teachers just in front of the board with the virtual kids. So let's see how she.
And the face-to-face are basically sitting there, and so that would be a great idea to look into that.
Okay. I think, are you ready to bring her in?
Yes,
Or
I am.
you have some more things you wanna go over?
No, actually, I think we're about ready to bring her in. Student engagement is really big for me. Differentiation is really big for me. Technology is gonna be really big for me. Just basically getting a feel for her to see if that is a person that we really want on our campus.
And I think we should also mention to her our mission and vision statement so she can get an idea of what we want to accomplish as a campus.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, how are you, Miss Farley? Hi, how are you doing?
Nice to meet you. How are you guys doing?
Welcome to Williamson. Go ahead and have a seat. How was your drive? I know this is a pretty long drive for you.
No, I love to drive. It's a pastime of mine. I just love to get out there and see what I can see, so it's no problem.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Well, my name is Sherry Sweet. I'm the principal here, and this is Sharon Amador. She is the assistant principal
Hello.
here. I want to kind of give you some information about myself and the school. I have been the principal here for the last 6 years. I started off in the district in about 10 years ago as a first grade teacher, and I've worked my way up. A little bit information about Williamson is we have 623 students currently enrolled. Out of the 623, we have 326 that are face-to-face and 297 that are virtual.
Oh, about split down the middle, huh?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Right now, our 5th grade has the biggest amount of students that are face-to-face. But our 3rd grade, as you know, you're interviewing for 3rd grade to co-teach. They also have about 10 to 11 students right now that are currently face-to-face with another 10 that are virtual.
Okay.
Since we don't have a rating from last year, if you looked us up, you would have seen that we are a B-rated school. That was from the 2018-2019 school year. We currently have about 6 programs right now on the school campus, whether it's resource, life skill, SLC, bilingual. We have a big LEP program here as well. Our program is really based on a lot of LEP students that are here. Another thing about our school district is we're not as big as the Houston area, but we currently have 29 schools here in Galena Park, with 15 of them being elementary.
Okay.
Out of the 15 that are elementary, we are rated the number 6 campus out of all 15 elementary schools.
Okay.
So we give ourselves kudos for that. We'd rather be in the top 5, but right now we're in the top 6.
Okay.
We also are a Title I school as well. So a lot of our kids stay in apartments and things like that. We do little things around here to where we hold a carnival. We go out into the community at the beginning of the school year. We get on the bus and we take the teachers around to where they get to know a little bit about the area that their children or their students. A lot of times you don't know that, okay, you just passed some apartments that your students are zoned to.
Right.
You know, we do have 3 home neighborhoods, and their homes range from 185,000 to 300 and something thousand.
Okay.
And then we house 9 apartment buildings. All those complexes, you know, are our low-income families. They make less than $30,000 a year. So you may have a combination of the 2 inside your class. Ms. Amador, do you have anything that you want to add?
Well, like Miss Sherry here said, I'm Sharon Amador. I'm the AP here. I've been in Galena Park for 8 years now.
Okay.
I've taught 2nd grade, 3rd grade, special education, and now I'm the AP. This is my 2nd year as the AP. Miss Sweet pretty much covered all the demographics, the history of our school. The only thing I would mention is the population. We are about 50% Hispanic, 50% African American. So those are the main cultures that we deal with here on campus.
Do you want to tell a little bit about the PBIS program when we talk about discipline and things like that?
Yeah, so we pride ourselves in our behavior plan that we have here. It's campus-wide. We call it the PBIS. It's a positive behavior approach to student behavior. And since our first implementation 2 years ago, we have seen a decline in that behavior. So what it encompasses is that we take that positive approach. You know, we're proactive instead of reactive. You know, we're giving praises, compliments for the behaviors that we want to reinforce. And so we've seen the students that we had issues with following that path for those kiddos, you know, who are demonstrating those good behaviors. And once all our new teachers come in, we have a training on what we do and the reinforcement, the rewards that we do campus-wide. So you'll get more information about that.
All right.
And as she was saying, we train heavily here. So at the beginning of the school year, if you have any students that are special education, any students that are 504, whether they're dyslexic or ADHD, we go ahead, we let you know how to pull up the accommodations. We even have an accommodations training for you. We have a training where you get to learn all of the school systems. We have Google training here. We have Eduforia training here. So there's a lot of trainings that we do to prepare you at the beginning of the school year, and then we do follow-ups at the end of the school year. So we basically have an open door policy here.
Okay.
We just have a couple of questions that we would like to ask you. We will let you know that some of them are scenario-based. If you need to refer to any of your references, please feel free to refer to some of your references.
Before we begin, I'm sorry, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background before we get started with?
Okay, well, Latasha Farley, as you already know, I have been a teacher for roughly 20 years. I've started in the school system that the schools that I worked at have been the schools that actually I attended when I was a child. So I'm very much about the community and living in a community that you also have grown in, and it just makes it a pleasure for me to come back and serve in the community that I also learned from. It was interesting that you were mentioning about the changes around the neighborhoods and the communities, because it does eventually happen. You know, you can't just stay in one community and not experience the changes that are coming around it. So therefore you have to adapt and be ready for those changes, and that's one thing I definitely am prepared to do. So when you hear about the different types of cultures and communities, I've worked very extensively in our community with students of different backgrounds and diversities. I am a very active member of my church community. We do a lot of outreach with the neighbors and with the citizens of that community as well. So I'm very in touch with keeping a strong bond with the parents and the students. If they see me, you know, not just in the classroom, they also can see me out in the community being a part of their you know, just regular everyday life. That makes it a lot of it reminds us that we're all human. So when I come back into the classroom and I see the kids and I talk to the parents, I also have to understand that within the community there are struggles, there are ups, there are downs, and when that child comes to my classroom, I can be aware of that and be a lot more sensitive to their needs, because I can't teach them unless I know that they're doing fine, that they're, you know, we're living in a definite hard time right now with the coronavirus and things, and also with the balance between virtual and face-to-face, which is something that you mentioned earlier. And you have to be prepared for that. And I think that I feel that with a lot of training that I've received over the years, and also learning new things, I'm very excited to take reign of that and help those students and the parents, so that we can have a productive school year, not one that is, you know, filled with fears and, you know, confusion.
So you will say that when you said that you are familiar with the virtual learning, you are familiar with most of the platforms. We went from Zoom to Google Meets, and we went through the whole Google platforms, where we use Google Classroom, Google Drive, things like that. You're proficient with the Google platforms?
Yes, I have used both Zoom and Google Meets, Google Classroom proficiently in my former campus. We're still currently using it now, and I understand that with the new updates and things that occurred throughout the year, I've been trained on how to use those as well. When it comes to engagement with the families when they are in virtual, it's important, of course, to make sure that the student is engaged at all times, just as if they were sitting in the classroom with me. And sometimes that is a challenge, because you can't necessarily control what happens at the house, but you can still make sure that the students are, you know, paying attention, making your lessons, you know, vibrant enough to where they won't want to miss your class. And that's, you know, it's a challenge, but sometimes it's very rewarding when they are, you know, a part of the class, and knowing that they're just as welcome online as they are face-to-face.
Okay, good. Now, I know you mentioned that you always do your best to make sure that the child is doing well before, you know, you can really teach the child. And that's something that we practice heavily here on campus, SEL training. Are you familiar with SEL training?
Yes, it's like social emotional.
Yes,
learning,
so we wanna make sure we're nurturing that whole child.
Mhm.
We're teaching not only academics, but we're making sure every student's needs are being met.
Right.
And when we do that, we can ensure success in the classroom. So I'm glad you brought that up, cause we train heavily as well in SEL
Right.
methods.
Yeah, definitely.
I also heard you talk about discipline. How would you handle a student who is constantly disruptive or defiant?
When it comes down to a student that is being disruptive or defiant, first of all, I know it's not a personal thing. Sometimes there are issues that are beyond, what I can control. Not to say control is the operative word, but the fact that, being an educator, you have to be an administrator of your classroom, so there are some forms of management that you have to take over. When it comes to children that are defiant or having, behavior problems, it's important to try to find the root of the situation. There could be so many volumes of what could be the issue. It could just be that they're not feeling well that day. You need to find out. It might be that they have certain medications that they need to take, such as, with ADHD. It may be an issue of medications, or maybe if they're not on medication, they just need some better technique to communicate their frustrations to you or their confusion. It may be some type of cool down strategy, or something that the parents, it could be just anything. It could be a family tragedy that just occurred, and how they're coming to school with all these, worries and fears on their minds. They're children. They don't know how to regulate their behaviors as adults will be expected to. So I don't expect them to behave like an adult when they have struggles or challenges, but it is important that I do communicate with them. It's important that we still set the boundaries. Of course, you might be upset, but being disrespectful or being harmful to yourself or other people is something that we don't do here, and that we do have to remind those students that we are a community of people. First and foremost, we're all human beings. We have feelings, we have concerns. However, there's a way of handling that. So a lot of counseling, a lot of private talks, conversations with their parents in a humble and, of course, a non-threatening way is the best way to handle it. You don't know what people are going through, so you definitely want to come with a sense of concern and, genuine concern. So if that's the problem, we definitely want to take care of that, and they can, in a very discreet but, formative manner, so that they understand that they're not feeling well, or if they're having an issue, we want to help. However, we need to maintain a management, a firm management, so that the other students don't feel that it's okay to also display those same behaviors.
Okay. Well, I want you to keep your third grade co-teach position in mind as I ask you this question.
Okay.
How do you use data to differentiate instruction and support students? And when I ask you this question, I want you to also think about our district initiative, because our district initiative this year is differentiated learning.
Okay.
So I'll ask it to you again as you think about it. How do you use data to differentiate instruction and support students in your classroom?
All right. Well, we within the years that I've taught, I understand that differentiation is a core of learning. Not all students learn on the same level. Not all students learn in the same methods. So differentiation is a must. It's an essential part of your lesson planning. So when it comes to looking at the data, I'll pull the data that is provided from the district, the different kind of test scores, report cards, certain assignment skills that the state of Texas sets, because each of the state, with our TEKS, we have to look at the skill that's being assessed, and also see what methods or ways that we can teach that same skill, but in different ways. A lot of small groups will be important, because you don't want to just, again, teach everybody just one way and that be the only way. Differentiation means that you have to think about that child's way of thinking. Some students are just well listening to something and they catch it and they can respond. Some students have to work with their hands in order to figure it out with it, because that touch feel sense of theirs is stronger. So you have to be able to learn how to get them to create, be in a more creative tone. Some students just want to write about it, and they can just write all day long about what they know and what they've learned. So being able to provide those types of avenues so that the students can provide what they know in the best way that they know how to show it to you.
So if you had a student that was high, a student that was low, and a student that was in the medium category, and you had all three of them in the same group, what would be something you would use to help the low kid, the medium kid, and the high kid?
Okay, so I have one strategy that I like to use when I have heterogeneous groups, mixed up. I do like to provide when I provide an activity or a project for them to do, I might color code it. Say for instance, the students who are of a lower cognition will get the green questions. The student that is in about the mid-range will get the orange questions, and the student that is a little bit of the GT or higher range will get the blue questions. And so therefore, they are all able to provide and come to the table with answers. Then they share those answers amongst each other, and what ends up happening is that the students learn from each other rather than just hearing me, banter all day long about that concept or skill. They learn from each other. They're in those groups. I brought some very special tools that I use that I've been trained on, and it's called Kagan structures. Have any of you ever heard of that before?
Yes, we actually send all our teachers, not just on our campus, but it's a district-wide program that we do use. And so at the beginning of the school year again, we send all of our teachers to a Kagan structures training. So I'm glad you have that and you're familiar with it, because that's how we keep all our students engaged, by utilizing all these different Kagan structures. So I'm glad you're familiar with that.
The cooperative learning is very important, because again, the students learn more from each other. Most of the time when it comes to them teaching each other how to do something, they learn it better from a kid-sized person than an adult-sized person a lot of times. So when it comes to cooperative learning, I'm very well versed on how to get that done. So Kagan has been a great tool for us.
Well, would you like to tell us about one of the structures you have used?
Okay, well, I love this one, and it's called, the Rally Coach one. The Rally Coach structure, where you give it, you're facilitating the skill with the students, but then you let them think it, you give them a chance to talk, you give them a chance to speak it out with each other, discuss it, have conversations about it. And then as you're walking around, you can see and listen to what they're explaining, and see if, and you just kind of make your little anecdotal notes, see the comment, listen to the comments that they're making amongst each other. They can be paired up with a shoulder partner, they can be paired up with a person that's across from them, you mix it up, and then they coach each other. So that coach will one person will listen to their shoulder partner, for example, listen to what they say for 30 seconds. And then as the 30 seconds is up, the other person talks and gives them their responses to it, and they both give each other positive feedback and also corrective feedback if they need it. That's what coaches do. So.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Now I know, just going back to data, we talked about data. How do you monitor your data? What do you do, when we're working with groups, these small reading groups or math groups? Tell us a little bit about how you monitor that.
Well, we have with English language arts, we have our guided reading groups. Guided reading is always important to keep a more bullseye, targeted approach to certain skills and levels of students. So when it comes to guided reading, you're able to pull those students who are having issues or struggles with a particular concept or skill. You pull that teak, you start to work with that group with those types of skills. Say for instance, they are having problems with their endings, the inflectional endings, or if they're having issues with inferencing, you can always take that group and show them, differentiated ways of finding or, honing in on that skill and improving it. The same thing with math. You have a guided math approach. approach where, again, you have students in third grade in particular that are just, learning that concept of multiplication. Well, some kids just don't look at a flashcard and just rattle off the math facts. You might need to bring that group in to do smaller, step-by-step things, repeated addition, using arrays, again, bringing out some manipulatives so that they can also, look at it, work it out, and see it on their own. So those types of small groups that are targeted to those skills are important as well. So that's how I use that data to make the groups. Then we use those skill points to also provide a more intensive instruction for them.
Well, do you have any other questions before I get into the vision that we have here on campus?
Yes, I do actually. Okay, so working in our groups, as I mentioned before, the population here is very diverse. We have English language learners. Now your position, we are looking for a co-teach position, but understand that we're gonna have possibly LEP students in there, very limited English, where parents have signed a waiver that they don't want their child in a bilingual class, so you're gonna be dealing with some very beginning English. So tell us what kind of strategies would you implement to help your English language learners?
Well, that is a challenge. I will admit that, having the LEP background is something that I am still working on. Definitely, I would use from what I understand, this district uses something called English of 3D English structure. So I definitely want to, hone into that, because again, and also when it comes to students that are still, beginning language learners, if they were here probably previously from the previous year, I would love to talk to their prior teacher from the other grade levels to see how far or what was the progress that they had the previous year, see how I can definitely build upon what they already know and make and provide, a stronger framework. So, know where they stand, so I know where to go. So it's all about planning and making a pathway, and also just paying attention to what those students are capable of doing and learnings, and then building upon that. So, LEP is something that I definitely want to improve for myself, personal goal, and I'm willing to, and I'm ready to learn and also be, of service of those students.
Okay, awesome, thank you for that.
Well, here at Williamson Elementary, we have a vision and mission statement. And I want to see if your vision is the same as ours.
I see.
So I'm gonna state our vision, and I want you to tell me what that vision means for you inside the classroom, inside the community, and how you see yourself with our vision.
Okay.
So our vision statement states that the vision at Dr. Shirley J. Williamson Elementary School is to prepare and motivate our students for a rapidly changing world by instilling in them critical thinking skills, a global perspective, and a respect for core values of honesty, loyalty, perseverance, and compassion. Students will have success for today and be prepared for tomorrow.
What I hear when I hear that, I hear of helping these students have a goal and a set path for their future. They don't stay here with us forever. As much as we love them, as much as we care for them, we know we have to prepare them for what the future brings. It's a very tumultuous time. We are faced with so many challenges, and when it comes to our students of our diverse background globally is increasing. I understand that you were saying that the students here are predominantly Hispanic and African American. Well, our nation has still yet to still yet to welcome them with open arms, especially when it comes to their creativity, when it comes to their intellect, when it comes to providing jobs and opportunities and careers. For our students of color, it is a huge disparity when it comes to our national acceptance. So what I would like to do is to when I think about that vision, I think about how do we prepare our students for that future? How do we help them understand that it might not be made for you now, but you are responsible for building it for yourself? How do you, how do we prepare our students to make sure that when they step out into the real world, that they step out with confidence? How do they step out with a respectful, stature? We have so many issues where, the sense of disrespect is considered to be something that is a boundary or a stopping point for a lot of our students to advance. How do we get them prepared for the business world? How do we get them, how do we build their confidence to know that, yes, they have a future, there is a tomorrow for you, and how do you get ready for it? You get ready for it right here. It doesn't seem like it. It may not seem like it. We might just be playing with Play-Doh or building with blocks or having, counseling sessions or even working on multiplication facts. But how is this relevant for you in the future? So how do we get these kids to realize that they have a future? How do we foster that confidence in them? How we as the staff have, just the confidence of knowing that once they walk out of these doors, that we prepared them. So that's that vision. The mission is very strong and clear there, and I appreciate that.
Okay, good. Let me ask you one more question. I know we were on the mission and our vision statement, but you mentioned something about making it relevant to the kids, and that's something that we really try to make all our teachers here understand. With all lessons, making it relevant, and we also encourage teachers to do a lot of project-based learning.
Yes.
How familiar are you with project-based learning?
Project-based learning is something that you want to help the students. The students have to know that when it comes to creating a learning environment, creating learning, it also is something that you can create within yourself. So you don't always have to pick up a book or have to run to Google to find the answer to something. How do you find that answer for yourself? So project-based learning is a big component of that, because you want them to know, hey, not everything that was invented was just invented out of the air. Somebody had to sit down, somebody had to think about it, they had to create, they had to succeed in some cases, they had to fail in others, they had to go back to the drawing board, and they had to restructure, and they also had to keep at it. Stay persistent. Don't give up. So that is nothing, the project-based learning is just a way of showing them that they have an intellect too. They have a sense of wonder and a sense of discovery too. Here's something, I want you to try to work on it yourself if you do, and also looking for help that is appropriate. Sometimes you do have to ask for help. Sometimes you do have to go and, team up with a couple of students of your own, and also listen to their input. Also learn how to, agree to disagree, as we like to say, and then work together and try to figure out the solution to a problem. So when it comes to project-based learning, it's a very strong life skill. Learning how to work as a team, learning how to work independently, carrying your own weight, and also the accountability if something is successful and if something fails, and how do we, and if it does fail, we just don't chunk it and give it up. We go back to the drawing board and persist and keep going.
Okay. Well, as you were going over your part of the vision, I was also taking notes, and basically you have the same mission in mind as we do as well. You're from the community, you're out in the community. You would be a great asset to our campus, dealing with PTA, because you're out there with the parents and things like that. And I also noticed that you've been the PTA president at your school for the last 3 years.
Yes.
So that would be a valuable asset to us as well. Ms. Amador, do you have any more questions?
Now, I love that you mentioned teach our kids not to give up. It's okay to make mistakes, you know, but as long as they persevere, and that's part of our vision statement as well, perseverance. So I'm glad you brought that up as well. Now, we also pride ourselves in a positive school culture. We feel our teachers have a great rapport with each other. We really don't have any drama here on campus. We're a big family. You know, we feel we can get along, we can come to each other if we have any, you know, concerns, issues. Now, let me tell you, if you had a problem on your grade level, how would you handle that?
When I have problems with it, because I mean, again, we do have, as I've been saying before, we're all human beings. You know, we don't necessarily know everyone's affairs and things that happen off campus or even on campus, but but when it comes down to being here for the students and being a team, we do have to handle and confront, you know, conflicts if they occur. Of course, there's many ways of going about it, but I choose the way of coming to a colleague of mine with humility and with a sense of understanding. I don't want to make their lives, you know, any more tougher, and I certainly don't want them making my life tougher by not, you know, if we don't communicate and discuss what the issues may be, then we're both gonna, then he and I or she and I are gonna continue to bump heads. That's not productive. The kids see it, the kids can sense it, and then you have a whole new problem with maintaining the management of your class. So I really believe that having a discreet and of course candid conversation with the other colleague, in the sense of, you know, again, confidentiality. I don't approve of discussing, you know, a person's, you know, issues, and then all of a sudden it's in the atmosphere, not even 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 3 days later. That's something that I feel that I am able to be approached. I feel that I should be able, that I can you can discuss things with me, and you know, that it stays between the four walls of what we do. And if it is a personal issue, I would rather hear it from that person's mouth rather than hearing it from some other third party or from other, you know, avenues or sources. So it's a matter of respect, it's a matter of humility, it's a matter of humanness. I don't want anyone to feel that they can't come to me and discuss things with me, whether it's personally for me or if it's for the dynamics of the classroom or what have you. I believe that I'm agreeable to a lot of different situations, because it might be just some way that I'm not seeing it. And if you discuss it with me and then I can understand, then okay, you know, we can all change and adapt as we need to, and keep a sense of flexibility, but also in a respectful way.
Okay. Do you have any questions for us at this time?
Let's see. When it comes down to the social emotional situation, is there any type of extra, you know, different types of groups or facilities that are made for the students to be a part of it?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we do practice what we call restorative practices. So each teacher is trained on those restorative practices, trying to restore the children, you know, not just the ones who have those issues, but it also helps to build community in our classroom. So that's something that we do, and that has helped combat those negative behaviors as well. So we do practice restorative practices.
We also find that within CHAMPS as well. So we also utilize CHAMPS as well.
Okay. And how about when it comes down, seeing that we are in the stage that we are in, is there anything that we do as a campus to show outreach to the community to help out in any way? I'm very much about volunteerism and helping, you know, show that the school is a part of the community, and that families and neighbors can also contribute by being a part, by joining us, as well as us, you know, providing and helping them.
Do you want to talk a little about the angel tree that we have? And
yeah, so we have a lot of programs, a lot of outreach programs. We have what we call angel tree,
Mhm.
and our counselors send out a list to all the teachers asking if there's any children that they feel
Mhm.
could benefit from, a Christmas gift. Because some of our kids here, they might not, get a gift. They might not be able to experience what other children experience. So the teachers give a list of students who they feel might be in need,
Mhm.
and then every teacher has the opportunity to adopt a kid. What we call adopt, meaning we'll go out buy some gifts for that student,
Cool.
and the parents can come up here and pick it up. We also do Thanksgiving baskets for families in
Alright.
need. Teachers really get involved with bringing, perishable items. Our counselor's good with putting baskets together because she's very familiar with the families, and so who would need it the most. So we get baskets together for families.
Mhm.
We also have the Girls and the Boys Club.
Oh, okay.
And within the Girls and the Boys Club, we do community outreach that way as well.
All right,
We have a retirement home that is just around the corner from the school.
I see.
So we go there, we sing carols, we
Mhm.
donate socks, we spend time with the elderly.
Okay.
We also, this year, we didn't get a chance to due to COVID, but our program also has an outreach where we go and we put wreaths on the veterans, on their headstones.
Wow.
And we do all kind of things with our Boys and our Girls Club. We have a conference coming up right now with our Boys Club where we have a couple of NFL players. Gonna reach out to them. The superintendent, Dr. John Moore, is gonna be the keynote speaker. The sponsor of our Boys Club here is heading the whole entire conference this weekend. So, and it's all gonna be virtual. We have 500
Wow.
spots to where, the kids can go in and they can view things, and the Girls Club's gonna do theirs in April.
I see. Okay.
So, that's another way that we reach out to the community. Plus, we have community partners here. We have a church down the street, Pastor Payne. He comes in and he conferences with the boys. They also, invite us to their church, and they provide lunch for our staff at the church. We also have, a couple of the banks here that donate things to us, and they come out, for our carnival. This year we weren't able to have the carnival, but the carnival is able to buy a lot of the things that we need for our children as well.
Oh, great.
A few more things that I feel are very important, as far as our community outreach to parents. We have, what we call LEP meetings with our parents, and a lot of our parents are non-English speakers. So we have volunteers, teacher volunteers, who help the parents learn English, So they're certified ESL teachers, and they help our parents, with their English language. We also have STAR meetings, and that's usually, probably about 6 to 8 weeks before STAR. We start bringing the parents in so they can get comfortable with how the STAR looks and how they can help prepare their students at home. So those are very beneficial for our parents, because a lot of parents have never experienced, they've never had a child who's taken a STAR test. So we like to show them what it's gonna look like, strategies that they can use with their kids at home to reinforce those skills and start preparing them, building that stamina for STAR.
And so, when keeping that in mind with the STAR test that, kind of looms over our head throughout the school year, I do find the importance of STAR being because of course that's our standard, this is what we are tested and held accountable for as a school and as a district. However, when it comes down to the atmosphere of learning inside the classroom, I think this is very important that the students are not totally, kind of just, bantered with, this is gonna be on a STAR test, this is a STAR, this is a STAR. How does this campus, kind of create a balance in that? Because, again, we don't want the students to know that the whole school year is just about preparing for one test, but how does the school, help the students understand that this is not just a STAR learning skill, but more of a life skill that they're going to be using throughout their, throughout the courses of their, of course, education, and of course, out there in the real world? That's a question that I like to see, because I do see a lot of campuses that just seem to be so stuck on STAR, and I think that it kind of just, it kills the spirit of the campus. And so how does this campus kind of, shield, kind of cover that little piece up, but make it more of a learning opportunity rather than a star strategy?
Right, so it all comes back to making our lessons and planning, making them rigorous yet relevant to student learning. How is that going to affect them in the real world?
Right.
So making our lessons relevant, making them fun, making them project-based, but skills-based at the same time.
That's basically when we use literacy centers and things like that.
Okay.
Are you familiar with literacy centers?
I am, yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, if you don't have any more questions for us,
No.
we'll be giving you a phone call. Give us about a day or two.
Okay.
And if you're one of the candidates that come back in, we're gonna ask you to create a 45-minute lesson for us.
I see.
And when you create the 45-minute lesson for us, I want you to think about the differentiated learning. I want you to think about your co-teach aspect. I want you to think about your LEP students. I want you to also think about your virtual students. Because within your classroom, you would have probably about 10 face-to-face students and about 10 virtual students.
Okay.
So I want you to think about all of those scenarios. If you have any questions, please feel free to call myself or Ms. Amador. We have an open door policy, so if you need to come back up to the school, if you think about anything, please feel free to come back by.
Certainly will. Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you for thinking of me.
Ms. Amador will walk you out.
So how do you feel about our last candidate?
I was very impressed with her wealth of knowledge of the community, considering that she grew up in the community. She said she went to elementary, middle school, and high school here. She stayed within the city limits. She went to U of H. So, and then, she sees the people out in the community. Her church is not too far from here. So just knowing that she's homegrown means a lot to us here.
Right.
And then with her knowledge of the Kagan strategies, I was so happy that she said that because, yearly we do trainings on the Kagan strategies. So that will be someone that will be able to come in, go. She's familiar with the rally robins and all of those things, and she was able to tell me about shoulder partners and things like that, and she can use that for her differentiation pieces. I was very impressed with her knowledge of differentiation and how she was able to tell me how she can utilize that in her classroom. I never really looked at it that way when she was saying that, her low kids would have the green cards or the green questions, and her high kids would have the orange questions, and, just using that strategy alone. Her wealth of knowledge of PTA, because she's been the PTA president for the last 3 years at the campus that she's at. Her flexibility.
Right. I really love that she's flexible because as she stated, she has 20 years experience teaching, and a lot of times when we come across our veteran teachers, they're not really willing to be flexible or, to be willing to try new things. So she kept mentioning that she's flexible, she's willing to change, she can adapt to change. So I really liked that. She is flexible.
I also
And that
liked,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
and that she's tech savvy. Again, being a veteran teacher, she's very tech savvy. So
because it's hard to get them to learn new things.
right.
I also stated her knowledge of English 3D. Not all districts have started utilizing English 3D, and just to know that she uses another program that we utilize, which is English 3D, was really great. Because when it comes to our LEP students, over 50% of our campus is LEP. So when you look at it that way, you can say, okay, she can go in, she can teach our LEP students, she can teach our SPED students, she can teach our regular ed students. So giving her a combination of students wouldn't be bad for us.
Right. And even though she was honest and mentioned that she wasn't really familiar with the LEP students, she's willing to learn more and make that a personal goal for her. So I really liked that she stated that. So she knows where she needs to grow, and she's going to take those steps to get there.
I also like when you asked her the question regarding how she would handle a dispute with a colleague. And I like that she would go to the colleague first before coming to us. having a conversation with them and making sure the conversation stayed within their ramifications. So if it had to go within somebody else on the team, everybody is getting together on the team. She wants to work together. I know that was somebody that will hold their the confidentiality when it comes to a dispute.
Yes.
And I think that it would stop there so that we wouldn't have to know, okay, they had an issue over this problem. And I think that it would be handled too when they're doing team planning. Because if you're doing team planning and if you have a dispute about it, hey, let's get together, let's talk about it. You don't have to come and visit one of us. Even though we're flexible, they don't have to come and visit us.
So yes, very good on those conflict resolution skills. That is a plus, so definitely. I would say she would be on my list for one of the ones that we bring back for our second interview and watch her do her 45-minute lesson.
Okay. Well, let's go back and see if they have done her criminal background check.
Okay.
So that we can call her back in and have a 45-minute interview with her, with the team, and then have a 45-minute lesson. I would like to bring